thank you for joining us for our special called Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee. We're here at the Porter Sanford Center for the Performing Arts and Community. We're in the black box section of the building, so if you're on your way here, just look for the signs when you come into the entrance. Chaired by myself, Commissioner Ted Terry, and joining us is committee member Commissioner Shakira Johnson, and committee member Commissioner Michelle Long Spears has an excused absence. So she will not be joining us today, but we do have a quorum. On our agenda today, we are discussing a few agenda items as well as a discussion. So I'll just go through that real quickly so everyone knows where we're at. So first, we're going to have a discussion on the operational assessment, and that is just to talk about sort of the next couple of months, I believe, in order to just go through the review of the operational assessment and to discuss sort of the next steps coming out of the study and the new vendor coming on to help with the transitional and change management aspects of the plan. We also have Madam District Attorney Sherry Boston presenting item 1324, which is the creation of 9 positions in the District Attorney's office as a critical budget request. We also have 2 items related to the lease and facilities use agreement for DeKalb County and women moving on, doing business as the Women's Resource Center to end domestic violence, and similarly a renewal no-cost lease for the Center for Child Advocacy in DeKalb County and International Women's House. So, CO Williams, are you good to start with the operational assessment discussion? Welcome you on up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner. So what I want to just kind of give an overview of how we see moving forward with the operational assessment. As you're aware, Malden and Jenkins did an outstanding job, quite frankly, in the assessment, finding over 266 findings. And our intent is to present a strategy over the next month or so as to how we're going to report out to the various committees of jurisdiction. So right now, we are working with Momentum, the Momentum Group, to develop a strategy for how we are going to work with the departments, go through the findings, and come up with our action plans. So what we like to do is look at the 4 different areas or roles that will be played in the implementation of the findings. And one is responsible. Who are the agencies who are responsible for the different activities? And quite often, obviously, the administration is going to be primarily responsible for the implementation of the various findings. Accountable, the administration and the departments will be, of course, accountable for implementing the various findings. Then consulted and informed, and the Board of Commissioners will of course be consulted and informed and have opportunities for input during our discussions. So the way I see it is the month of October we will continue our review with departments to refine the reporting strategy that has been being worked on with the Momentum firm, and then we will present that in November. And what that's going to essentially do is lay out, here's the major milestones that you can anticipate, here are the opportunities for input from the board. If there are things that come up in the November timeframe that may inform our budget request, we will advise at that time, but it will also give the board an opportunity in terms of the informed and consulted. There may be some suggestions on how we approach some of this, or budgetary things you'd like us to look at. And then we will have quarterly reports. So each quarter we anticipate coming back to the board and just giving a status report as to where we are. So that's how we envision it. We can do it by department if you like, but I'm envisioning at each meeting kind of an overview, which will be done primarily by myself or Ms. Cisse. And the departments will be there and available should you have specific questions. But what we want to do is keep a running dashboard of how we are tackling the various items. If we're running into any roadblocks, and identify those. And if there's any policy questions or decisions we would like to have discussed, we'll present that in that forum. So the document that was just provided gives a general overview, and I think generally we are comfortable with this. It's pretty much saying what I've just articulated, and I've had the opportunity to discuss this with Mr. Allen, who's done a wonderful job in putting this together, and it articulates the responsible, accountable, consulted, informed in kind of this in this charge. So.
Okay.
That's where
Great.
we are.
Thank you. And you handed out kind of a little chart here that sort of
And,
articulated that.
you know, there'll be some refinement, but this gives a good understanding as to how we're going to move forward.
Okay. Quick question before I turn it over to committee members. So for the consulted, are you thinking that just in this initial 2 months, it'll just be committee to committee or the full board?
And we will come back and discuss that. But initially, we're thinking each committee would have a report in their area, but there may be an opportunity that either twice a year or something, I'll report to the full board. But generally speaking, you know, most commissioners attend most committee meetings. So we're thinking if we tackle committees of jurisdiction, that will accomplish.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's totally fine. I think in the interest of time for just board meetings, you know, and committee of the whole sometimes can go pretty long. We don't want to rush this work. So for the FAB committee, our sort of 3 departments that are kind of under our jurisdiction are the Finance Department, Office of Budget and Management, and Purchasing.
Yes.
So that'll be kind of our 3 that we'll focus on here.
Right. Yes.
And so I'm good with what y'all are doing now, which is just sort of the initial notifying, confirming goals, reviewing the assessment, and then at an October FAB committee, and we have 2 in October, so we've got 2 chances to go through those. This will be more of the assessment findings, presentations, the initial response to the assessment, and then committee members or the committee can provide any additional input at that time.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
No, nothing else to add. I agree. I like the way this is laid out. I think this is clear for us and what our role will be.
Right.
In all of this, so I have nothing else to add, just looking forward to it.
Okay. And one thing I'll just, something that has been, we talked about it before the assessment really kind of came out and we sort of are working on this change management plan. I did want to see if we could spend a little bit of time on the LSBE program. I think purchasing's been working on some updates to that. I think it's in the assessment, but I want to kind of highlight that as a crucial aspect of things I think that we could improve and just, you know, and expand opportunities through the LSBE.
Right, and Mr. Chair, that's exactly what we're hoping for when we come back at future meetings. If there's key areas that could you drill down on this, or I'm getting a lot of questions on that, or those type of things, yeah.
I'll piggyback on that, Mr. Chair, that I have had questions about the LSBE program. Even a couple of engineers within District 4 that were trying to figure out how to get involved more. So I would like to see us include that as more of a drill down.
Absolutely. And we can also, if you like, set up a special discussion on LSBE as a discussion item.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We'll coordinate with you on that. So, all right, Jessica, so we have 2 committee meetings in October. And I guess, Zach, are you good to sort of separate? Can you give us a heads up on what department you want to go on the 14th and then on the 28th? And how do you want that, or unless you want a little more time and we could have them all on the 28th?
I was thinking all on the 28th.
On the 20th, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right, so we'll plan for the 28th FAB committee meeting to do that second part of the assessment. And so Jessica, let's make sure we have enough time. We might need to kind of keep the rest of the agenda
Fairly
light. And if we need to do a special call, we can certainly work with you on that. Okay. Great. All right. Seeing no other discussion on that item, I'll move on. And actually, let's just skip down to the final, the 2 items on the end of the agenda, 1325 and 1326. I think this is sort of a formality, but in the interest of time, we'll move through those quickly. So 1325 is the approval of a no-cost lease facility use agreement between DeKalb County, Georgia, and Women Moving On, Incorporated, doing business as Women's Resource Center to End Domestic Violence. And who can speak on that? Is that you?
Yes,
Oh, great. Oh, come on up.
me.
All right. We'll take care of those ones first. And also
Perfect.
the second item too is related, the Center for Child Advocacy.
Yes, I'll take those together if that's okay.
Okay, let me read that one. 1326, renewal of no-cost lease between DeKalb County, Georgia, and Georgia Center for Child Advocacy, and DeKalb County and International Women's House. All right, Madam DA, Sherry Boston.
Thank you so much. So just to give the committee an understanding of what we're talking about, the Family Protection Center is located at 1950 West Exchange Place on the first floor of the fire headquarters. It was previously known as the Family Justice Center and has been around since 2010. The purpose of the Family Protection Center is to provide a central location where citizens of DeKalb County who are victims of certain crimes can receive the assistance they need from the relevant law enforcement agency and non-governmental nonprofit partners. The space is used to coordinate and provide services such as child forensic interviews, SANE, which are our sexual assault nurse examinations, counseling or crisis intervention in an inviting space that is central, clean, efficient, and safe. In 2014, the county formally drew up plans to house the Family Protection Center at its current location, and the current FPC is one of its kind in the metro area. In 2015, the county, along with many other stakeholders, entered into an MOU regarding the formal operation of the Family Protection Center at its current location. In 2018, a review of the Family Protection Center was conducted, and it was determined that formal lease agreements for space was needed to be entered between the occupants of the space and the county. And in October of 2020, this board approved and authorized the county CEO to enter into a 5-year lease between the county and the Day League, the International Women's House, and the Georgia Center for Child Advocacy for their formal occupation of the space at the Family Protection Center. In 2024, the Women's Resource Center assumed operations of the Day League, formerly known as DeKalb County Rape Crisis Center, specifically taking over the operations of SANE examinations. So through both of these agenda items, what we are seeking to do is renew that lease agreement. And we also, because Women's Resource Center was not a part of that lease agreement, it was under the auspice of the Day League, the Women's Resource Center absorbed their operations. And so now we would need that lease agreement. We're asking for that to be renewed between the International Women's House, the Women's Resource Center, and the Georgia Center for Child Advocacy. Here with me today are Sheila Ryan, the CEO, I'd ask you to stand, of the Georgia Center for Child Advocacy. We have Amber Harris, the Chief Development Officer of the Women's Resource Center, and we have Drea Hales, who's the lead advocate for the International Women's House. And any of these wonderful women, along with myself, could answer any questions that you might have about the services and what we're asking. This is a no-cost lease, but we did enter a number of years ago into a lease agreement at the request of the law department in order for the county to be in compliance with all of those laws that we needed to have a lease agreement, and we do.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I guess the main question, just can you repeat, so how long have they been in the space?
We moved into the space in let me hold on. Let me do the math. We got the lease in 2020. That was the last time, but we were actually in the space before that. Okay. Prior to me becoming DA, this had all happened. I was Solicitor General at the time. Okay. When I became DA, along with my general counsel and then County Attorney Vivian Ernstis, we all believed that we needed a more formal MOU and a lease agreement to cover everyone. So I think we've technically been in the space since 2015, Sheila? 2014, 2015.
Okay, wonderful. And maybe just from kind of because I don't think I've actually visited this part of Exchange Place, in terms of the floor space and the office space, when it comes to like any improvements or upgrades or maintenance, is that something that our facilities department will handle?
Yes, they do. And in fact, when we had, so just to familiarize yourself with the space, you've probably walked by it and just never recognized it. When you come into the fire headquarters and you go through that security desk right there on the left, before you get to the security desk, right there is the Family Protection Center. And the wonderful thing about getting into this space is that it makes it accessible for anyone that happens to come into fire or police department. They can be walked over for any services, and we're right there and centrally located. So that space is under facilities management. My department, the district attorney's department, operates as the department over that space because it would have to be someone within the county. So we take responsibility for county IDs, access, those types of things. Okay. The space still is owned by the county, and so they are responsible. Last year there was a sewer that burst, and that caused significant damage at the Family Protection Center. We had to cease operations there for about 4 or 5 months until that could be properly cleaned up and remediated. So the county does still bear responsibility because it is the county property.
Okay. I did not know about that, but I'm glad y'all took care of it.
They did.
So presumably everything got replaced and there's sort of new fixtures and new floors and things.
Yes.
So from that standpoint, I guess insurance covered most of that.
Yes. It's my understanding that was all covered by insurance. We went through facilities management, but it also highlighted the need of why we need this space, because when we were closed for those 6 months, we had to divert all of our DeKalb County victims to the Fulton County location that the Georgia Center operates and is responsible for both Fulton and DeKalb. So they have a Fulton space and a DeKalb space. Okay. Our SANE examinations that we have a grant to do in DeKalb, we had to start sending over back to CHOA, which is not ideal for us in DeKalb. We have found that the best services for our victims remain here in DeKalb. So we had to send people out to Fulton for those 6 months. So again, it just brought to bear how important it is for us to have a DeKalb location for child and sex victims.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. Commissioner Johnson?
Was the Women's Resource Center formerly at the courthouse at one point?
No, the Women's Resource Center actually operates their own. Their being a part of this lease is for the sole purpose of performing SANE examinations on site.
Gotcha.
They have a grant, or the Day League had a grant, also known as the Rape Crisis Center. When the WRC acquired their work and their space in the organization, they took over that grant and are responsible for performing and delivering counseling services and SANE examinations for sexual assault victims. And so they use their space. We built and created a medical facility within that space that is appropriate for doing SANE examinations. So it's a 24-hour process, or it's open 24 hours. They contact our hotline run through WRC now, and a nurse examiner will meet any victim at the location to perform that SANE examination.
Very important work, and we need to make sure everyone knows that it is happening and where to go. So just wanted to highlight the importance of the work.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, great. And I guess just moving forward, please keep us in touch, or keep in touch if there's any, facility issues, right? So if there, presumably you have all the equipment and technology and, the adequate space you need, but just, let us know how things are progressing.
Right. Our partners are responsible for maintaining their own needs, right? The county is not providing anything outside of the space and the facility for that space. They also help us with networking and that kind of thing. But as far as technology goes and equipment needed for examinations, forensic interviews, that's all the responsibility of the partners that are in those spaces.
Okay, great.
But we absolutely appreciate being a very low-cost lease. Okay. It allows us to operate these really critical partner services for DeKalb County residents and keep the costs low for these agencies that are doing the critical work.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner, I'll take a motion on both these items, please.
Yes, I move to approve item 1325 and 1326.
All right, and I will second. And seeing no further discussion, all in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. All right, thank you so much. All right, and so let's turn to item 1324. This is the creation of 9 positions in the District Attorney's Office as a critical budget request. And Madam DA, you provided us a lot of documentation, so I'll be happy to turn it over to you for any presentation or run through of these documents you have before us.
Absolutely. Before I do that, I just want to make sure that our nonprofit partners know that they are complete. Unless y'all have any
yes.
questions, unless they want to stay and watch the business of the county.
Yes, y'all are welcome to leave. No offense. Thank you for coming here. Appreciate it.
All right. So my next agenda item is for the creation of 9 positions within the DA's office. We understand that we're bringing this to you outside of the normal budget cycle, in part because we see this as an emergency request, a critical request that really cannot wait until the budget cycle next year. I will start with the request around 3 positions for the District Attorney's Operations and Special Projects Unit. This particular unit really was born during COVID. As you know, when COVID hit, we had to move from anything that was still kind of being done in paper, had to immediately move to technology. Luckily for us, those systems were in place. It's just that, some of our partners were still liking, as many of us are, to use pen and paper to do things. But during COVID, it became critical, and absolutely everyone had to switch to everything being technology-based. As a result, in the DA's office, of operating our office for 2 years remotely, 100%, in an effort to keep our staff safe, but also move the work of the court system, we started sort of our operations unit, which really started with just a deputy. And that person became what I'd like to call the train director of all the different moving parts and pieces of our organizational system. When we came back into the office, it was a realization that and just so you know, when I took over the DA's office in 2017, we had 157 people. We now have over 300 employees, and we operate out of 5 locations. And so our operations in and of itself has gotten bigger. And so we have increased our operations department, whose sole purpose is to deal with everything from when new employees are onboarded, to the technology they need, to coordinating with IT, the sheriff's department, the courts, law enforcement, all the things that every employee that comes in my office needs to handle. And so what we are realizing in particular is that our operations department still is way too small for the capacity of the work that they're expected to do and the number of employees that we have. So 3 of those positions are for special operations. I will highlight that one of those is very particularly critical because I want to point out the IT piece. We have 1 employee who is responsible for all the IT needs of 300 employees, which is not enough. And that employee, Steve Bell, prayerfully and thankfully just gave birth, or his wife gave birth to their baby girl over the weekend. So that means starting today, that 1 person isn't even in my office. You can see that that is problematic. And just so you know, the DeKalb DA's department is the largest consumer of IT-based services as a department in the entire county, because of the number of users that we have that operate on a computer technology basis. So it's a very critical need for us to add these positions to our operations, because if operations goes down, if the train conductor is not there, the rest of our office cannot operate. And right now they are running at a pace that is not sustainable because there's just not enough people to do all the work that needs to be done. In regards to our digital forensics unit, I am very grateful that during, as you may know, Commissioner Terry, you were here at the time, that unit was stood up with ARPA funds during the pandemic in an effort to combat violent crime in our community and utilize what we know are our resources. And so after that funding expired, you were gracious enough to include that into our operational budget because we knew and you understood the importance of our digital forensics lab. I know several of you, I think both of you have actually seen our lab and the work that we're doing there. And I will tell you that we are doing most of the digital forensics work for all of our law enforcement partners here in DeKalb, including the DeKalb County Police Department. Just to give you an idea of the work we did in 2024, and this was included in the item, we extracted 248 phones, we did 14 computer extractions, 41 miscellaneous digital requests, 23 trial testimony, 429 device search warrants, 261 cell phone search warrants, 150 social media search warrants, 84 Google search warrants, 24 Apple iCloud, 190 for U.S. Marshals and fugitive warrants, and another 29 miscellaneous. That was in 2024. We are on pace to far and away exceed that in 2025. So the work that we're doing in digital forensics is helping to solve crimes. It's also helping to investigate crimes, and it's helping us to prosecute these cases better. But we are struggling. We don't have enough people to do the work to keep up with the number of phones and devices that we're being asked to help do. Not just for the work we want to do, but more importantly, when law enforcement's trying to do the work, they come to us and do the work. I'm sure that you all have been following last week a young girl that went missing here in DeKalb and was recovered. Yeah. A lot of that work was done by going into phone records and getting immediate search warrants and pinging to find that location. And our staff was critical in working on that. So it's not just about prosecuting. It's about in real time being able to provide the services that we can help law enforcement locate victims.
Okay. And just on that, real quick question on that point. So DeKalb Police are using your team?
They're helping. Yes, we assist all of our, and not just, I mean, obviously DeKalb County Police Department is our largest law enforcement agency, but all of our smaller agencies, whether it's Clarkston Police or Stone Mountain Police or Decatur Police, that don't have access to any of these types of services, if something happens, we're getting the call and they're asking us to assist.
Okay, that would be good information to just splice out in terms of DeKalb Police request and then just all the other municipalities.
I can absolutely do
just
that.
So
we keep that data.
Yeah, it could just be like even just a percentage if you want, just so we kind of understand.
Sure.
Because, you know, certainly this is a county-wide service. You know, the general fund millage rate pays for these services. So,
and as you know, as a statewide office, like I'm here before you. The vast majority of my work is DKPD, but I'm responsible for assisting and helping every law, and not just DeKalb. We get FBI, we get ATF, any federal law enforcement partners that need assistance. We're also taking those as well. As I indicated, we do a lot of work with the U.S. Marshals.
Yeah, absolutely. Great, thank you.
So both of those requests, we would be asking for a total of 9 positions. That funding began, I believe, October 13th was the date we chose as the fiscal impact. And so the fiscal impact for all 9 of those positions and related costs would be $488,131.
Okay, and that also includes the equipment.
That includes any equipment.
With every staff position.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yes, Commissioner.
So then I understand and I see that the salaries are prorated from the October 13th through December 31st, but then the additional equipment costs, that's mostly a one-time cost.
So those are one-time costs, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And just a kind of general question about sort of the hiring and then how it relates to our budgetary allocation. So are these positions do you actively have individuals that are ready to start work, or is it something that you want to get funding secured and then begin the hiring process?
We normally would get funding secured and then do the hiring process, but I'll be honest, we always have people that we know that are very interested in those positions. And so that's why we put in sort of this October 13th deadline as the time, because we feel very confident that once, if you approve this and then we have to get the PA1s, that we would really be able to hire very quickly.
Okay, understood. Okay. All right. All right. That's your presentation.
That's my presentation.
Okay, great. Let me just go back to the first part. I had a quick question on that. For the initial request, the first part section, legal office coordinators. So, all right. So this is really just to help you. I guess be a sort of a front-facing to all of the departments or public that comes into the office and helps just run the trains, in essence?
Yes. I mean, the 3 job codes that we pick, I mean, keep in mind some of these job codes are just based on what you as the county have created, right?
Yep.
And we just think these particular job codes most match the description for what would be entailed. And as well as the salary range that would be appropriate for those positions. So I say take the job title that's listed in here with a grain of salt, because these are the positions that currently are in our office now, and these are the ones that are have been dedicated for our use, if that makes sense.
And I am intrigued by this position because I think what you're basically saying is you want to make sure that the trial teams are prepared.
100%.
And so I know that there was what I thought was a positive announcement that the clearance rate, I think it was Superior Court, was sort of a notable clearance rate. It was
I think
positive.
it was state court, I think, but yes,
court.
that was in the paper.
State
yes.
court. Okay. So in other words, the legal office coordinator position is designed to help y'all be more efficient. And does that translate into a higher clearance rate? Help me understand the.
Well, keep in mind that the clearance rate you're referring to in the court system really is not singularly mine, right? Because it has to do with what happens after once we indict a case and it goes on to a judge's calendar. That division of court is responsible for how quickly or slowly that case moves. We're there, obviously, to do our work, but there are other factors, obviously, defense lawyers and public defenders and court calendars. But primarily, our legal office coordinator would be making sure that they are responsible for our administrative purposes, whether it's our 10 trial assistants, and then we have an additional 16 administrative professionals. So a lot of our work has to do with making sure that our administrative staff is doing everything they need to do to make sure cases are on calendars, and that when cases are closed, we're closing them out in the system and we're moving them through in the way we need to, at least our part of the pie.
Okay, and you only have one of this position currently.
Correct.
Okay, so this person is probably very busy?
Yes.
Okay. And so by bringing on a second person, I guess there'd be maybe some hierarchy there, but basically they're working together to support all the trial teams.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right, gotcha. Do you have any questions about that position? Okay. All right. The systems analyst senior, can you tell me a little bit more about that again?
So again, really, as we have come through a new digital age, we now have a lot of digital platforms that have to interface with each other on a daily basis. The county, for example, has invested in a tremendous amount of money for us to get the NICE platform, both at the police department and at the DA's office, that integrates and speaks to each other. It's where we house all of our digital evidence, all that body cam, all those photographs, phone dumps. We now have to really house that in the cloud. And so the NICE system is one of those systems that we have. So that's just one of the tools electronically we're using. We have case management platforms, digital evidence systems, all of these things, and it works in a structure of both all of our data and digital evidence that is constantly having to be maintained, but also the software is always changing. The next thing is around the corner. So this is really important for us to move to really the implementation and the continued maintenance of digital evidence storage platforms, and also works really closely when IT makes changes overall with the county. We have developed a really strong relationship for them to really speak to us directly, because any change that the county makes at any moment, no matter how small, could affect how our operations are running, or that we have computers that don't run that particular platform. I'll give you a prime example. The county is now moving towards, I think it's 11. Is that Microsoft? Am I saying that right? Yeah, Windows. Thank you.
Windows,
right.
yeah.
This is not my bailiwick, right? And what we quickly determined that many of our computers are on Windows 10. The change to Windows 11 is not fully supported in all of our operating systems for some of the platforms we do. So that's just one of the things that on a daily basis, when there's a small change, that is great, right? We realize that, hold on a second, we've got 4 or 5 platforms that people are using on a daily basis that they need for court and for management that all of a sudden aren't going to work the moment that happens. So these types of people that are staying in contact and understanding the way our system works to make sure there's one change somewhere that doesn't take down our entire system or leave us chasing a solution rather than preparing for a transition, that's important.
Okay, understood. And help me understand the difference between the systems analyst and the departmental IT specialist. It seems like there's different roles there.
Absolutely. Our IT specialist is more of an individual contributor, right? Our systems analyst is going to be doing a much more global perspective. Our IT specialist is someone that's literally exchanging, like going through the help desk on behalf of our staff. Okay. Showing up at their office, right, when they've sent a message going, the following platforms aren't working. They're an on-the-go body doing help work for our individual employees, and then they become the liaison with help desk and IT department about issues that go beyond just, my computer stopped working today, or I spilled coffee on it.
Or I forgot my password, which is my main request.
Right. So that's how I would describe the specialist. They're running around helping, whereas our systems analyst would be someone that's working more globally in a higher level, direct services with IT, direct services with our other providers.
Gotcha. And then who's going on paternity leave?
Oh, he's gone already, our IT specialist.
IT specialist.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, quick question. Well, maybe not quick question. As we're moving forward to the Real-Time Crime Center, and that's going to be creating even more digital data, digital evidence, we be seeing consideration of additional staff to help deal with that as well? Have you started thinking about that?
I have not yet.
Okay. And would one of these positions be part of that, or is that something?
Well, if there was going to be any interface between real-time crime and us, that would come through our operations department. Okay. The director of that department is Kelly McMichael. So if there were something we were hearing down from the police department or from our director of public safety and or IT, we would be working to talk with them to see, well, what are the things that you need to integrate with us, or what is it that you need from us? But that would come from the highest level, which would be our director of operations and special projects, which is Kelly McMichael.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so I think I understand these two positions pretty well. I mean, basically what you're saying is you have one individual for each. The office has grown substantially, and the workload has grown substantially. The legal office coordinator is helping really coordinate a lot of different things at once. I can imagine trial calendars and all the things that go into that are very complicated. So I am inclined to move forward with that today, because I think that I'm really worried. I am worried about justice being delayed because of bureaucratic things. And so any way that we can improve efficiency in that regard, I think, is a positive for all of our constituents. I am also very sympathetic of IT and computer issues, because like y'all are not IT specialists, you're the attorneys. So
I couldn't even remember Windows 10 versus Windows 11.
yeah, and so and I don't know how much y'all are getting into AI and automation, but
Yes.
all those things
Yes.
are going to require a lot of expertise and support. So I think, to me, the systems analyst senior position makes sense. I did want to ask, in terms of the one person that's going on paternity leave, is it possible that we can loan y'all someone in the meantime, just in the next couple of weeks? Looking at Zach.
Well, I don't know. What I can say is this: IT has been fabulous. We obviously, unlike being caught off guard for someone being out of office, we knew that Steve's wife was pregnant. He's out for just a few weeks, and so we had already put together a plan. IT was aware of it and understanding how we were going to make those types of requests and handle support. And so IT has always been super supportive to help us. It's my understanding that they don't have the manpower to just loan us someone for a couple weeks. And if I'm being honest, it would probably take more time for that person to get up to speed to a lot of the things that we have going on before Steve was coming back. So the fact that they are making it a priority for us and understanding that if we had a major down, someone would definitely come over. But we have figured out at least how to do day-to-day for at least these 2 weeks. I will note that our IT specialist is married to another county employee in our office. And so they've had to split up their time because of, PPL policies. So it actually gave us a little bit of time on this front end, just these 2 weeks, because he'll be taking some time once his wife returns to work. So if we can get this moving quickly, I might be able to have somebody in place before he takes what he hopes is a more extended period of time in the spring on the back end.
Okay, understood. All right, and I am sensitive to that request as well, because it does seem like I would hate for there to be this I don't know, major outage or something. Who knows what could happen?
Let's not speak
and there's
into
just not anyone available to work on it. One thing I do remember, CO Williams, that we had discussed earlier in the year is just the IT department in general, looking at sort of how we, across departments and constitutional officers and budgets, having some, whether it's a uniform, sort of system versus each office has their own IT specialist, and I don't know if they're actually part of our DOIT, but just can you walk us through kind of what y'all's thinking is for that in the future?
Right. So thank you, Mr. Chair. And what we're primarily talking about is a centralized set of standards, right? So that if you're going to put any software in particular on the county's backbone, that there is what we call resource manager approval. The IT department would be that resource manager, so that prior to any introduction of new systems, they have ensured that it won't cause a security risk to the enterprise. Additionally, we're looking for the IT department to be much more involved in ensuring that departments, and this is primarily departments under the CEO's auspices, but the constitutionals and others as well, but to ensure that if they're looking to purchase something, that there's certain standards, and this is more software related, standards that are adhered to ensure that on the back end that people get exactly what they want. So that's a process of coming up with a standardized requirements analysis and ensuring that once a contract is negotiated, they're able to implement based on the original requirements.
Okay.
And I'll just note that much of our work that we have to do, and we work very closely with IT, anything that comes through our office has to generally be what's called CJIS compliant, which stands for Criminal Justice Information Systems. Okay. So we as a law enforcement prosecutor office already have a lot of standards that any vendors or softwares have to have in order for us to access and input information in those systems. So we work very closely with IT to make sure that we are meeting their requirements, but also that we are remaining what we call CJIS compliant.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, because I was going to ask sort of just what are the specific IT specializations for your work. Okay, all right, so what I heard Mr. Williams say is we're not trying to like really have one IT department to rule them all, but we do want to make sure that there are sort of standards, whether it's on the platforms, just the base level, I guess, architecture and infrastructure that the county uses. But departments and constitutional officers may have special requirements. So when you're hiring for the departmental IT specialist job position, you're actually looking for that CGIS certification.
No, I mean, not necessarily. Our office has to be CGIS compliant, and generally that is the task of my general counsel as well as other higher ups to make sure that everything we do is complying, because we get audited. We get, looked at every year to make sure we're CGIS compliant with all of our things. And our director of operations would be involved in that. But everyone we hire, everyone from the person that answers the phone to the IT specialist, has to go through security and awareness training through both the sheriff's department for local, but also through state agencies. So every employee in our office has to do background checks, security and awareness, and comply with all the rules in order for us as an agency to be CGIS compliant, if that makes sense. So it's our responsibility to make sure every employee checks off every box, and we do that with everyone.
Okay, understood. Okay, and you provided the budgets for equipment, desk phone, cell phone, computer equipment. That seems obviously standard. And then you have the positions prorated from October 13th through December 31st.
Correct.
And just a random question, for the pension, it's blank. Is that something that, I thought that there was like a small, there's no county contribution for Group 3? It's a multiplier, so I don't know if that needs to be just included just for reference. TJ, you want to? Yeah, come on up, TJ.
So I believe what you're speaking about is the 401A. So that is included as part of the calculation, I believe. And then there is an additional match from the county, but it's not allocated on a per employee basis any longer. It's allocated at the department level. So it would be hard to break that out by individual positions.
Okay.
So it has the 401.
401A. Okay, so the pension column is blank because that's just, you can't estimate that at the moment, but it would
Right.
come into the departmental budget overall.
Right. So years back, we used to allocate the pension costs by employee based on a percentage of salary. And then that was difficult to do, though, because it was sort of a moving target that we'd have to try to come up with what percentage would get us to the minimum required contribution each year. So what we do now is we start from that and then look at what the costs were by department in the previous years and allocate it that way. So just let's say a department had 5% of the annual pension earnings, then they would pay 5% of the contribution, or that would be part of their budget, was 5% of the contribution to the pension fund.
Okay, and you just look at that based on December 31st, and then you plan for that for the March 1st budget?
Right. So it's based on the previous year is what the allocation is. The actual amount of the contribution is determined by the pension valuation, which is done by one of our actuaries.
Okay, all right. It's okay if it's blank because it's probably not a huge number necessarily for 3 months, but that's something that will get trued up later in
Correct.
future budgets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, are there any more questions on these 3 positions or comments, Commissioner?
No, I do want to note that our next voting meeting is not till October 14th. So this was getting it out of committee, but we wouldn't actually approve it as at the BOC until October 14th for all 3 items.
Correct. I understand that, and I will be unavailable on October 14th, but Lou Sanchez, the Director of HR Finance and Budget and Grants from my office, will be present, as well as General Counsel Rupal Vaishnav.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem, but with you having the 13th in there, I just wanted to make sure we were clear on our
No,
next
understood,
meeting.
understood.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's dive a little bit into the digital forensics. And so thank you for really providing that context, particularly with the missing teenager last week. And so you did provide for us sort of, it looks like 2022, 2023, 2024 and then 2025 as of July. So obviously it's almost September. So, so what you're saying basically is you are on pace to have had more cases worked in 2025 than 2024.
Absolutely.
2023, 2022. So it's increasing. And just again, explain. I think I know the answer, but just explain why you're having more of these digital forensics cases.
Well, it's really not more digital forensics cases. It's really just more capacity. As we know, everybody is walking around with one of these. It's a computer in their hands. So now we are at the point, I think when we started this unit, it was one of these things where we were getting phones dumped, that's the word for an extraction, right, on a sort of as-need basis. But what we quickly learned is that there is so much critical evidence by dumping phones that we needed to not only use that to solve crimes, but to prove crimes. There's an expectation, as you know, beyond a reasonable doubt when we get into court, right, which is way different than the probable cause standard that our police use to arrest. So everything from health data to Cash App records to the things you search is happening in iPhones, Droids, laptops, iPads. All of those different devices have valuable information, not to mention social media extraction and mining for the evidence that's in social media to prove where people are and the crimes that they may have committed. So it's not that we have an increase as much as we have a realization that in every single criminal case, there's usually a phone associated with a victim, a witness, or a person charged that has valuable evidence that we need to mine. And so the more we're able to do that, the more we're able to find people, solve crimes more quickly, make connections that we know exist but need to prove that they exist. And it's become really important because so much of exchange, for example, a lot of folks aren't exchanging paper money anymore in drug and gun transactions. They're using Cash App, right? They're just
and
crypto, right? All of those things, right? So those records are not going to any longer necessarily exist in a bank account. They're going to exist at Cash App or Venmo or PayPal, right? So it's those types of things that we're getting that data off phones to prove crimes every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many, so management analyst too, that's just a position that you chose as the job code. How many, or is that the rest of the current team in place? Are they all that management analyst too?
So let me tell you it's easier to tell you what we have right now. We have 3 people that work in our digital forensics unit. A fourth person that does, is in charge of doing warrants for the office. Anything related to digital search. So they would be using forensics and then helping also all the law enforcement partners. But right now in our digital forensics unit, please keep me accurate, CD, Kathy's position, and Pasibe's position. And Adam is our search warrant lawyer. So technically we have 3 people doing data dumps and testifying, 1 lawyer that does all the warrant work for the entire office and to support all of our law enforcement agencies.
All law enforcement agencies, okay. And so you mentioned the DeKalb Police, all the city police.
Federal partners.
Federal partners, and then there might be a few more in there that we don't, that are.
I mean, as it stands, if I got a call right now from any law enforcement agency that needed assistance that would require dumping a phone in our lab, I would authorize it.
Okay. So you said 4 individuals that are handling this load of work. And I was interested to kind of understand how the demand is, what the demand is coming from the municipal, the non-DeKalb police.
Sure.
And that would be just interesting for us to know.
And I can either have or email, however you'd like it. I know the investigator that's over this keeps very detailed records on which agencies. And so we can provide a breakdown. I tell you, the vast majority of our work, just as are the vast majority of our cases, come from DKPD. But I can provide that to you if you'd like that.
Okay, all right, that's very important. And I did hear you say that DKPD doesn't necessarily have this capacity, so you're helping
Absolutely.
them with their investigations.
There was a time where the police department carried many of the licenses that we have now with things like Gray Key and Cellbrite, which are like the main softwares to do this work. As with all law enforcement agencies, as they lost people over time, there were certain things that they could no longer sustain. And this is a question for Chief Padrick, but as I understand it right now, we are supporting the DeKalb County Police Department in any work that they need on dumping phones.
Well, I certainly appreciate you providing that service. And is that an arrangement that you feel is a good one to continue?
If we have more people.
Okay.
I mean, right now, this lab was built on the idea of doing more of the work that I say we need, meaning pulling cases from probable cause to beyond a reasonable doubt. But we are absolutely doing a tremendous now of work on the front end of helping to solve cases so that they can be cleared with arrests made, if that makes sense.
Yeah, certainly, I understand. And I guess what I'm saying is if DeKalb police said, well, actually, we're going to bring in our own forensic team.
Sure.
Are they now working together? Are they separating caseloads and duties? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does the delineation between what a police department would and could do versus your office sort of handling that?
I understand what you're saying. I mean, the police department, if they were doing this work, would obviously their focus would always be the front end work, the things that we need to figure out to solve a crime. We have never really leaned on our police department to do that additional work that we have to do in order to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt, which is why I started my lab. And I will say there was only one other district attorney's office in the state. We were not the first. I like to be the first, but we weren't. Gwinnett County had their own digital forensics lab. And so that was one of the places we looked to see that. But it is work that we can't rely on our police department, understandably. We also can't rely on the GBI, understandably. So we wanted to be proactive and find a way to rely on ourselves. And in doing so, we have proven to be a successful partner in assisting everybody else.
Yeah, interesting. And sorry, I'll pause on a second, Commissioner. This is an interesting discussion. So tell me, what does GBI do any of this stuff as well, or they just have such a backlog that you just don't?
So I can't tell you what kind of phone dumps GBI is doing, but I'll give you an example. When Cop City happened, and the GBI was the lead agency on that, and they started collecting phones, those phones were sent to our lab. Okay. So that should tell you what their capacity is. And what you also need to understand is that when you run a lab and you're using Cellbrite and Gray Key and these other types of softwares that are made to dump phones, everybody working in that lab has to be certified on an annual basis. And so it's an expensive proposition because the licenses are expensive. I will not lie. We spend a lot of money to keep those licenses, but training those people on an annual basis is also expensive. And they don't let you share that information. Everybody has to sign NDAs. I don't even have that information. The people that work in my lab have signed those individual NDAs. My general counsel has to make sure that they comply with it. Because these companies keep that information really siloed because it's an expensive business for them. So running a lab and keeping it staffed is expensive. So if you're the police department and you spend a lot of money to train one person and then they leave and go somewhere else, you got to turn around and spend all of that money again to train that next person because it's not transferable.
Okay, understood. Thank you for that, Commissioner Johnson.
No, really good discussion. So the additional positions that you're requesting would pretty much double the department.
Yes.
Okay. And this might be a question for Zach. When we do our service delivery with our municipalities, and I know there's certain police services that each municipality can sign up for and pay for, is this one of those services that's included?
Right. So all of the services provided by the DA are kind of general fund countywide services.
Okay.
So unlike specialized in PD where you can opt in or opt out, the DA's responsibility is countywide.
So it may not be explicit in the service delivery, but because it's countywide, all the municipalities are paying in for these services.
That's correct.
Good. Thank you.
Did Atlanta participate in that, or does Atlanta have their own system? As far as in DeKalb?
For digital forensics?
Yeah.
Well, we are responsible for prosecution of cases in Zone 6. So, no, we support the Atlanta Police Department as well as anything that happens in Zone 6. But even if Chief Sharonbaum called me tomorrow and it was something that he needed, dumped that wasn't Zone 6, it's not like we would say, no, you have to go to Fulton. By the way, Fulton doesn't have a digital forensics lab. We don't say no to our partners on anything. If it came to finding a missing person or an alert that came out because we want to locate a suspect that's on the run, we're going to jump in and help. We're a law enforcement agency, and we're going to assist anybody that needs it at any time.
Okay, thank you for that. I think Commissioner Johnson makes a really great point. The service delivery strategy is designed to ensure that the countywide tax rate is supporting all those services. And so I'm guessing that we haven't really factored in this service because it's not technically a police service, and they're under DeKalb Police. But Zach and TJ, is that something that y'all could look at? And do we have the opportunity to amend the SDS in 2026?
Is that when the next one's up?
I don't know. I don't know when they're up.
And
I thought we could update them every year if we wanted to.
I thought it was I know we renew every 10 years, but I don't know where we are on a cycle.
Every 5 years
Every five.
automatically. And then there's certain triggering events that would necessitate like a new city created and things like that, would necessitate a renegotiation of the service delivery strategy. But one more time on the heart of your question is related to the funding, no?
Yeah, we set the general fund millage rate based on the service delivery strategy with the cities.
Right.
And so they have to, there's a certain millage rate that they pay that is, denoted. And so if digital forensics is not in the service delivery strategy, should it be? And should we be trying to factor in because clearly we need more capacity for it. Mm-hmm. And so just understanding, that's why I asked how much the cities are needing this service. So it just helps us figure out what portion of the SDS should cover that.
Yeah. Let us take a look at that, because currently, I believe the way it works is that the function of the district attorney is simply a county function in the service delivery strategy, if it's even enumerated.
Actually, it's a state function.
Right. So it's kind of a constitutional responsibility that the general fund pays for. So those are the funds that we use. So I don't know, and we'd have to look to see if there's individual programs that the DA provides that are paid for separately through some sort of arrangement to specific city millage or things like that. I don't believe that that's the case. No. Okay. The DA, sheriff, courts, those are just part of, us, the general fund operation.
Okay, understood. And, the main reason I ask that is because I think, I'm sensitive to Madam CEO's request at the beginning of the year to try to use this budget year to be, as constrained as possible because of all of the potential shutdowns, government shutdowns, but also just budget cuts that are impending in future budget years that we don't know about. And so, the annual cost of these positions, just on the ones we're talking about now, will be $591,000. Prorated for this year will be $113,000. So, what I would love to do on these positions is just if the DA and the administration can talk about these positions. Preferably we can move forward on some of them because it seems like there's a need right now. So I'd like, if y'all don't mind, to come back with your recommendation at the board meeting. I'd like to move this out of committee so we could just kind of keep things sort of moving, because I do support the coordinator, the IT positions, but I would just like to understand that percentage breakdown of what other agencies are using the digital forensic services. I think that's important for us to know. And then what we can fiscally sustain getting going now, just because there is a need, but understanding the impact it's going to have on next year's budget as well.
Right, yeah.
Is that okay?
I can provide that data. I mean, that's not, we track that data specifically by agency.
Okay.
So that, I just don't have the spreadsheet in front of me right now. But I can provide the data so you can understand, is it 95% going to DKPD, right, versus the other 5 smattering agencies? We certainly can break that out.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. I mean, to me, that's just a way for us to align what the general fund millage rate is providing services for, and, the capacity you need to do the service. And then obviously, because it's 2026, figuring out how we set those millage rates and budgets.
Right.
And just so we know that ahead of time. So, because if anything that we approve in terms of positions will be carried over to next year's budget.
Well, and one thing I think you should also consider when we look at the breakdown, and I don't know, I'd have to ask my director if we can break down sort of what we call pre-indictment work versus post-indictment work. Okay. Because what you'll see is, for example, if I just take the city of Decatur, we will be doing work on city of Decatur cases because we're responsible for prosecuting a murder that happens in city of Decatur, right? Mm-hmm. City of Decatur doesn't legally have the authority to do that case in their Decatur City Court, right? Okay. So, but they may not have used our lab in their pre-work, but once it comes to us as an office to prosecute, it becomes our case to prosecute, if that makes sense. Yeah. So the data that I will give you certainly will break down the agencies that case originated from. I'll have to see if there's a way for me to break out pre-work versus work that we would do on a case regardless, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Madam TA, for explaining all this. It's very interesting, and I certainly support, like I said, the IT and coordinator positions. I think that makes sense to move forward with today. I think that we can move this agenda item to the full board with a request that the administration, coordinate with your office to just, get an understanding of sort of the budgetary impacts of all of the positions. But my posture would be to please come back with a recommendation that increases capacity. And so if it's not all of these positions, it's at least some of the positions to address what, clearly is a expanding field of digital forensics. I mean, we need to make sure that we have the expertise and the capacity to deal with all the technology, and it changes so fast. And so I don't want us to get behind. But I would like just to get the administration's, feedback and coordination with your office on what particularly we can do right now. Okay. And then, certainly would entertain planning for the next budget cycle as well. So, Commissioner Johnson, does that sound okay to you?
Yes. Can I just say so moved?
I think you can. So moved.
I hope you guys understood what he said.
Yeah, so I'll second, and just to repeat the motion. So the motion is to recommend approval of the section of the agenda attachment that is for the legal office coordinator, department information technology specialist, and the systems analyst senior position. Okay. And then for no recommendation out of committee for the digital forensics positions, but with the posture that we do want to support the capacity needs now, but we'll wait for a recommendation from Madam CEO, Madam DA on exactly what that looks like.
Okay, thank you. We will work with the COO and the CEO on that second item prior to the 14th.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so motion and second. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. All right, that is the end of our agenda. Anything else? Okay, all right, we'll take a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second, all in favor? Aye. All right, meeting adjourned.